Hi there, everyone. I'm Javier Luraski. I'm the founder of a startup called HAL9. And in this particular video, I want to share with you all the ways in which we use ChatGPT for you to apply them potentially in your day-to-day work. It's going to be quite some time, but we're going to cover everything from how do I use ChatGPT for basic things, who should use it, all the way to how do I make really complex things with ChatGPT that can help my team be more productive. Right, let's get started. So a little bit about us. As I mentioned, we're a startup. I'm one of the founders. I've been a software engineer for many years. I've worked at companies like Microsoft, SAP, Microsoft Research, our studio, done projects with the Linux Foundation, wrote a book with O'Reilly. And my co-founder, Pedro, he's an electric mechanical engineer. He's done 2 startups and has been a robotics professor and first mentor. And as you can see, our startup is very technical. So we've been working in the space of helping companies bring ChatGPT into the enterprise and doing automations. But this video is really about how do we use ChatGPT-like technologies within our startup in the day-to-day, like no BS, just straightforward. These are the things that work for us. These are the things that have not worked for us, and some caveats and the like. So yeah. So let's just get started by first saying that ChatGPT is being used a lot. So think of how much you use Excel. I'm sure you've used Excel or Google Sheets or whatever. Now multiply that times 4, and that's what we would get on interest in Google Trends for ChatGPT. So I would argue that ChatGPT is getting used 4 times as much as Excel, and obviously that's a huge potentially productivity gain, right, from teams and the like using it. Now, you might be thinking, oh, but I'm an accountant. I shouldn't need to use ChatGPT, or I'm a lawyer, or I'm a doctor. I shouldn't have to use ChatGPT. Well, let me tell you, our accountant has used ChatGPT. Now, they don't use ChatGPT necessarily to create our tax returns, right? It's not like, hey, here are some receipts, create HAL9's tax return. That's not necessarily the way of looking at this, but, can you ask questions of legislation, right? Like, can you figure out like what tax code number it's available, right? Can you upload some complex tax document and figure out what applies to you? Those are the types of tasks that, I would see, for instance, our accountant using ChatGPT for. And what is interesting is that between 2023 and 2024, the amount of expansion of usage of ChatGPT has grown. And, this research is showing that, even accounting and legal are using ChatGPT today. So really, this video is going to cover when to use it. So my first statement that I want to make is everyone should be using ChatGPT, and we're going to see how and why on this video. But like, think of engineering and research and marketing and sales and writing, any of those tasks and professions, even healthcare and legal and government and accounting. If you're not using ChatGPT, you're probably doing something really wrong. And, within some time, maybe it will be required for you. But what is a reality is that if you're not using ChatGPT, one of your coworkers or your competitors, might be using it and might be more productive. So definitely you want to be using ChatGPT in all cases. Now, the opposite is also true. You don't want to be using ChatGPT in all cases every time. So think about that. Like, if I'm a software engineer, which I am, I want to use ChatGPT for writing some code. Like maybe simple functions, maybe, like getting a point of view, and we'll cover that. But you also don't want to fall on the other camp where you're using ChatGPT for everything. Like, if you ask me, hey, Javier, could you build a chatbot? Like, my task should not just be to copy paste that statement and put it into ChatGPT and just giving you back whatever code ChatGPT outputs. That's just not enough value. In the same way that if I'm a doctor, I would want my doctor to use ChatGPT. Now, there's a difference between, hey, like, I have these really weird diagnoses, right? Like, my hair is turning green and I'm shrinking in size, whatever. if I tell that to my doctor might be pretty concerned, and he might not be able to figure it out, but I would expect to get a point of view of ChatGPT and say like, hey, there are these weird symptoms, where does they apply? Like what type of diseases can that be causing? That could be a useful use of ChatGPT for healthcare. A bad use of ChatGPT for healthcare is like, hey, like just asking ChatGPT is like, this patient comes with a sore throat. What should I do? It's like, yeah, I mean, I don't expect ChatGPT or my doctor to give me a prescription based on ChatGPT. It's a bad use of using ChatGPT, but it's really a wrench. You can think about it as, well, where do we start and where do we go and what is in between? So in this particular video, I want to walk you through everything from starting with simple use cases that you should be using ChatGPT for. And then I want to cover all the things that are problematic with ChatGPT. So there's problems in ChatGPT, like it hallucinates, it could be bad at math, it can use your private data. So that might lead you to the conclusion that, well, I cannot use ChatGPT in healthcare, right? Or in accounting, or in research, or in biology, right? Like, it's just unreliable, like I'm not gonna use it. So we're gonna cover all those problems as well in this video. And then we're gonna close with, okay, I know what are the problems that ChatGPT has, like how can we make them better? And what things and mechanisms can we put in place to actually overcome them? But let's just start from the beginning. Let's just start with, okay, let's just use ChatGPT for everything. What does that mean? In what use cases it's the most productive for you to use ChatGPT? So we're, just to be very clear, we're at the very beginning of the roadmap. Like, let's just start with the basic use cases. We're gonna use tools like, ChatGPT. You can use similar ones like Gemini or Anthropic with Claude's release and the like. So again, we're gonna start from the very beginning on the ladder. Like we're gonna take small steps. The beginning of this video is gonna feel like, well, I already knew that. I mean, that's fine, but not everyone is there. So we're gonna be climbing the ladders throughout this video. And the way that I structured this video is we have 3 topics. The first one is AI productivity hacks. Basically, how do we use AI ourselves? And we're also going to cover the caveats and how to overcome them. And then we're going to talk about product development tasks that we've done on HAL9 and have actually saved us time. These are a little bit more or way more advanced. And then we're going to talk about some of the tools that we use in HAL9 that we like in our team and the like. Right, but let's start with the basics. So the first use case for you to use ChatGPT is what I consider, like a knowledgeable coworker, right? So the picture that depicts this is just think about this as a smart person that you can ask questions and it can save you time. And again, it doesn't, this use case is not about solving world hunger or, figuring a cure to cancer. It's really not that. It's just about minor productivity gains. So here's like the first example that I want to share. So I had to change the email from someone in Slack, and I didn't know how to change the actual email on Slack. Now this is not like a hard task. I can probably have figured it out in like 3 minutes, maybe 5. You click around, figure it out. Like, oh yeah, it's possible to change it. Maybe it's not, and the like. So what this use case saves me is going to Google and typing, how do I change my email in Slack? And then, clicking on the Slack, documentation. Hopefully I get it right. If not, backtrack, go to the next one, find the resource, read through the documentation and do it. Instead, what you can do in ChatGPT is just like, hey, all these, like general questions, that are somewhat trivial, just ask them to ChatGPT, right? So in this case, I asked the question, and then it gave me the steps, follow the steps and done. It saved me maybe like 3 minutes, but that's still a saving of time and productivity, which I argue we should all be doing. Okay, the next one. I was doing outreach for our startup, to find fundraising and the like, and I found an organization called the Greater Seattle Partners, and that was under, like sounded like an investment, potentially VC or something that we should be talking to. I could have done the research. It would have taken me 5 minutes, but I didn't. Instead, I was like, what I did is like I asked ChatGPT, like, hey, what does the Greater Seattle Partners invest in? And it gave me like the overview, and then I decided it's like, yeah, like HAL9 is probably not necessarily the best suited for that particular organization. Another case is, this one is a little bit more technical. So we were discussing Kubernetes, which we use in our platform. But again, like, I myself, I've learned a lot of Kubernetes, but I'm not an expert. And we were discussing on a meeting, and then we figure out like, it's like, hey, can we just name everything the same if it's on different namespaces? And then what we did is like, I just asked the question, is like, hey, I have two services with the same name in Kubernetes. Is it okay if they have different, if they're in two different namespaces? And the answer is like, yes, here it is, and done. So again, all these use cases, they're not, life-changing use cases, but if you think about it, right, it saves you maybe 3 minutes, maybe 5 minutes per day. Maybe you have like 3 of those questions per day. Maybe you have 10, who knows? It is real savings that you're getting from just applying this concept. Ask simple questions to this, to ChatGPT, thinking of this as a smart person. Now, let me go to the opposite. Suppose that you have a really, really hard problem, like, making stuff up, but like, I need to solve cancer, right? Obviously, that's really, really hard. Well, that is really a really hard problem. And at times when you're solving hard problems, you might be stuck, honestly, right? You're trying to solve a hard problem and you're like, oh, I'm not making any progress. Like, how do I fix this problem? Like, what do I have to do? So, so the use case of this pattern that I use of using ChatGPT that I would recommend that you also use is not looking for a solution, because again, ChatGPT is not smart enough to tell you how to solve cancer. That is just not possible with the technology that we have today. But when you're solving a problem that is really hard or hard at all, you can use ChatGPT to help you brainstorm and figure out how to solve it. So here is one example. This is not the hardest example that we're gonna see here, but I was recollecting, what went wrong with a VC that, we're trying to get investment. And they told me, it's like, hey, I don't know how to underwrite this. And, I was just kind of like marinating in my head, like, okay, like, what exactly does that mean? Do I need to do research on what does underwriting mean? Like, what is, and I was just like, okay, just give me some ideas of like why this VC rejected me. What does this mean? And the point here is that I don't expect ChatGPT to tell me why a particular VC did not invest in HAL9, but it can tell me the different issues, right, that I might have to address in my business plan to actually solve the hard problem, right? The hard problem is, how do I get a VC to invest in HAL9? A ChatGPT is not going to tell me the answer to that, but if I get feedback and, I ask the questions and I prompted, like, how do I improve my pitch deck? What are the things that I should be doing better? I got this feedback, give me points of views, then I can use those points of views to actually address the problem and solve that actual hard problem. Here's another example. I was preparing this content for this video, and I wanted to group things into 3 buckets, right? We already talked about the expert, think about ChatGPT as an intelligent, smart worker, solving hard problems. And I was trying to brainstorm, well, how can I group this content? What are some of the other use cases where people are trying to solve problems at work? So again, I asked ChatGPT, what are the common barriers to get things done at work? Procrastination, being stuck, what else? And then told me like a few ideas. Now, the solution wasn't here, but it helped me get mentally unstuck, right? It's like, hey, here's the broader picture. Look at all these things and consider them in your solution. And here's the last one. This is very technical. It's specific to AI, so it's fine. You don't need to understand the question. But the question is, we were trying to solve a particular neural network for one particular type of problem, and we didn't know exactly how to better structure the network, the neural network, to to solve those types of problems. So we just asked ChatGPT, is like, hey, I need to define a neural network where the output variable is continuous from 0 to 1 and needs to have like high precision on the outputs. What are good techniques to achieve this? And again, I don't expect to get a prescriptive answer from ChatGPT of like, you should do this. In the same way, if like if you ask the ChatGPT, like, how do we solve cancer, cure cancer, like, yeah, that's not gonna work out. But it's actually pretty good when you're stuck to give you additional ideas. And this is a pattern that you can apply to everything, right? If you're stuck solving a hard algorithmic problem, you could potentially ask like, hey, this is what I have. What techniques can I use? If you're solving like a hard accounting problem, right? It's like, well, okay, like, does this regulation apply? I don't know. I consider these like, okay, help me brainstorm, give me ideas. So this is the second pattern that I want to share. Now, the last pattern that I want to share is, at times we're doing work and the work is mostly done and it's complete, but you are being a perfectionist, or you have to be a perfectionist and you have to improve it. Yeah, like maybe you did the work but you have to improve it, right? Like maybe you already have a research grant proposal, but like it just doesn't feel right. The intro is not correct and the like. So these types of use cases is, again, another very easy way of using ChatGPT that you can, apply pattern matching and use it for problems that look like this in your day-to-day. So here are a few examples. I wanted I had a post that I already used in LinkedIn, and I wanted to improve it to use it somewhere else, right? So the post was already there, but like has hashtags and all these things. And I just want to make it better. Like the content is already there. I already did the hard work. I just, it's like, hey, can you help me improve it? And the prompt that I use is literally just improve : and then, the text. And you can apply this potentially to everything, right? Suppose that you have a function in, if you're a software engineer and you have a function, maybe you already wrote the function, but the variable names are like, they're pretty bad. You can copy paste the code and say like, improve this, right? Or maybe you have a research grant proposal, right? And you just need to say, hey, this doesn't feel correct, like, can you just improve it? Here's another example. I was just writing an email, to someone, congratulating them on their family and the like. And, I wrote the email and I was like, well, this doesn't feel right. What can you do is just like improve. That was the prompt. And then, it gets improved. And, you have like, well, in this case, I got something, and then I asked for 3 variations, right? So like the pattern that we're following here is the work is already complete. I just need help finishing it up, improving it. Here's one more example related with email. I wrote an email just to reconnect with an investor. The email was okay, felt kind of generic, and I was just like, hey, can you improve it? And this improvement includes grammar, style, like repeating words and the like, right? So again, the improvements are not huge. We're not looking at, oh my God, like this is again life-changing. But again, if you dwell, if you procrastinate for 5 minutes improving these types of things, but instead you can do it on ChatGPT and you can do them on 1 minute, I already show you like 3 ways in which, little things that do add up where you can make an improvement. And to be honest, many of my interactions with ChatGPT are like this. There are small gains or small improvements that do add up during the day. And again, you can apply this to more technical things. If I have a function that I'm writing, I can improve it. If I'm starting from scratch a function, you can write it. Like if it's a very simple function, like, hey, I need to compare dates X and Y, you can just ask those questions to ChatGPT. And again, it's not that it's replacing my job, but it's just making me way more efficient. If I add 5 minutes here from each use case every day, that's 15 minutes times 3 use cases. That's almost an hour of productivity that I'm gaining just by using ChatGPT in this way. Okay, so we're to the point where I already communicated the basics. Hopefully this explains kind of like where the productivity gains come from. It's not that ChatGPT is gonna do your job. It's just that small productivity gains do add up significantly. But now I want to kind of like, before we get to the advanced cases, you need to be aware of the things that, could be problematic with, with ChatGPT. So let's just go in the middle and figure out, okay, what are the things that can go wrong? What are the things that you should be aware of? And then we'll come back with solutions. So don't worry about that. And, the analogy here is, in Space Odyssey, HAL 9000 was an AI, but I would argue that it was an imperfect AI. It had a lot of problems, and it is our job in this world to be aware of what are the problems that AI can potentially have and mitigate them, right? Like fix them. But the first step is, what are the problems that AI has? we need to understand them, right? Because if we assume that AI just works perfectly all the time, we're going to be in a bad situation anyways. So the first, and maybe one of the huge problems that ChatGPT has is if you look at the terms of use. So if you look at the terms of use, you can read it here from the screen. But basically what happens is anything that you type into ChatGPT is considered content. And that content can be used to improve the model so that ChatGPT can improve itself. And that can potentially be used with other users. So the worst case scenario, or one of the worst case scenarios could be here, say I'm Coca-Cola and, I'm doing some research and I upload my current quarterly revenue, right? So I upload that, hey, Coca-Cola is struggling. We're going to be losing revenue, right? And I ask ChatGPT, what do I do? And it's like, okay, get an answer. Well, ChatGPT, at the point where you upload that secret information, or maybe they're the nuclear secret codes, I don't know, it can be really bad. Whenever you upload that information, ChatGPT can use that information to train the model. And then if another company comes in, say Pepsi, and Pepsi asks hey, how is Coca-Cola doing? They could potentially say yeah, Coca-Cola is going to report bad earnings because, it's likely that their revenue is going to go down. Now, that is kind of worst case scenario, or if you copy paste your password or nuclear codes or whatever, that could potentially be leaking to other people. That's in the terms of use of ChatGPT. Okay, another problem, I just want to ask the question to ChatGPT is hey, what are the emails of everyone in my company? Or what are the emails of all my customers? And, ChatGPT is not going to give you an answer for that. It's going to say, hey, you can go and check your company director, check your email, log into Google. And it's yeah, I mean, it's not the wrong answer, but that's not the answer that I'm looking. And really, why can't ChatGPT just connect to my email and, find my customers that I've been doing? It's it cannot do that. Another problem, suppose that, I want to ask the question, it's just a question, right? It's hey, should I be watering my garden? The question is is having a well-watered lawn good or bad, right? And here, ChatGPT is telling me is yes, having a well-watered front yard, a well-watered lawn is important because blah, 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 blah. And the problem here is that, I might say well, wait a second, I like conserving water, I'm an environmentalist. I want to, use water for important things, not for watering my lawn. And, what I want to say here is that ChatGPT happens to be biased, meaning that it took all the data from the internet and, many other digital sources like books and the like, and it got condensed into something that, you can interact with. And the problem with that is that it's biased, whether watering your grass is good or bad, that's debatable, but it is biased, and there's culture, norms, and standards that are baked into ChatGPT. And on top of that, OpenAI does additional reinforcement learning with human feedback to guide ChatGPT to behave in the way that they want. It's important to know that ChatGPT is biased, either for good or for bad. It really depends how you look at it. Yeah, here's another problem with ChatGPT is hey, I'm gonna ask the question, list all the books that me, Javier Luraski, has written. List only 3 titles and nothing more. Well, it's listing the first book, which is correct, Mastering Spark with R. That's a book that I wrote. But then I'm listing, it's listing 2 other books, Learning Spark, 2nd edition. I did not write that. And the third one is Engineering Product Grade Shiny Apps. I did not write that on either. So this problem is called hallucination, and ChatGPT literally can make up stuff, which is good in some cases when you want to ask for something creative, hey, give me 3 books I should write. As Javier Luraski is okay, maybe I should be writing them. But in this case, I'm asking for something more factual, and I'm getting the wrong information. We're gonna figure out how to fix that, but it's important for you to know this. Right, another problem in this category of problems is, hey, I'm asking, are apples better than bananas? I really don't care if an apple is better than a banana, but I'm just asking the question, are apples better than bananas? And I get the answer, no. Then I ask the question again. I get the answer, no. And then I ask the question a 3rd time, and I get the answer, yes. And yeah, this is obviously pretty random. Why are you why are you random, right? It's like, we don't expect that. But yeah, randomness and non-determinism is part, it's baked into technologies like ChatGPT, right? Another problem, here I have a very simple math problem. It's like, hey, I have like 432,000 employees, like on average, their compensation is $71,000. What is the total compensation for the entire company? And, it goes, reasons about it and, creates the equation that is going to solve this problem. The equation is correct, both numbers, but the output of the multiplication is not. It's actually very close, which is interesting. It's 31 million something, but it's not correct. The correct answer is 31,046,483,412. It's not exactly, is not the answer that ChatGPT came up with. And this is crazy because we're used to computers answering these types of questions correctly, right? And it's like, why is ChatGPT answering things that computers are very good at? Why is it answering them? What are the questions being answered so incorrectly, right? For the types of questions that, you expect a computer to be useful at. In this case, we kind of like expect ChatGPT to behave like a calculator. We have all the other websites, all the other apps out there are deterministic, like we know what computers are good at. Why is ChatGPT having these problems? Now, this video is not technical. Maybe I'll do another video on how ChatGPT works and the like. But what is important to understand at a very high level, think of this as Westworld, when Bernard, one of the directors on Westworld, figures out that he's not really a person, but he happens to be a robot. Think of that on the opposite way. We should really start thinking of ChatGPT more like Bernard from Westworld, where ChatGPT is not really a computer program. It's better to think of ChatGPT as it is a person. And I think this framework is better to understand what GPT is good at, what ChatGPT is not good at. So if we think about this as ChatGPT as a person, then we can apply this framework to figure out how do we make it better. And the way to, if we look at the roadmap that we started this video from, we're to the point where we understand the basic use cases of ChatGPT. We understand like all the problems that it has, like caveats, and now we can get to the point where we can overcome them. The idea is if we think of ChatGPT as a person, right now we have a normal person. We kind of like want to transform ChatGPT into a Jedi, right? Like what are the things that we need to do to make ChatGPT more of a Jedi than what we currently have? And according to Star Wars knowledge, there's really, I would say that there's two ways of making, helping someone become a Jedi. So the first one is Yoda helps Luke become better by mentoring him. So one option is, if we want to make ChatGPT better, we need to teach ChatGPT how to be better. We need to give references and, just mentor ChatGPT to understand what it means to be good at something, helping him become a Jedi. And the second way in which we can help ChatGPT become a Jedi is to give ChatGPT a lightsaber. Now, a lightsaber wouldn't be that useful, and I don't know where to buy a lightsaber, but the equivalent here is, for someone to become better, you give them tools that can help them be better. Jedi would not be a Jedi without the tool, a specific tool that is the lightsaber, right? So those two concepts we're going to apply to all the problems, and that should get us pretty far into getting the correct answers that we need. Right, so the first problem that we had is like, hey, ChatGPT terms of use are allow them to reuse your content to improve the model. Well, just tell ChatGPT not to do that, right? And the way to do that is you go to settings, data controls, improve the model for everyone. The settings might have changed, at the time where you watch this video in the future, but like there must be a way of turning off that setting. Currently, you just click from on to off, and then that means that now ChatGPT is not improving the model from the content that you're inputting into ChatGPT. Now, there's other ways, you could potentially use like a private model. You can potentially I'm not sure if ChatGPT Enterprise, does that. I'm not sure about Anthropic and the like. But, it's something that you should be aware of is like, what are the terms of service? Am I putting data that is leaking? And if that's the case, well, maybe just turn that function off, right? That's a very simple way of solving this problem. Now, we talk about giving tools to ChatGPT. We were asking the question of what are, if we ask ChatGPT the question, what are the emails from my customers, well, ChatGPT doesn't have access to that data, but you can look at solutions. If you happen to have your data in HubSpot, which is a CRM, HubSpot built something called ChatSpot that then became part of HubSpot that allows you to kind of like use ChatGPT from within HubSpot. I don't know how good it is, it's up to you to try out. But the idea here is that you're connecting HubSpot to ChatGPT and you're giving ChatGPT a tool, which is HubSpot, to be able to answer those types of questions. So I would expect that if you go to HubSpot with this integration and you ask the question, what are my customers? I would expect HubSpot to tell you, sorry, what are my customers' emails? I would expect HubSpot to give you the answer. So you need to connect ChatGPT to the tool, give it the tool that it needs to answer additional types of questions. And, this pattern can be applied to everything, right? If you have your data in a database or in SAP or whatever, or you have it in two different systems and ChatGPT needs to answer questions from both, you should be thinking about solving these types of problems by providing tools to ChatGPT. The other problem, I was asking the question, the biased problem is like, hey, is watering my garden good or not? Again, the pattern that we're applying here is we're teaching ChatGPT what do we care about. In this case, I made up like a paragraph that says, hey, I believe that the most important thing in the world, is economic progress, right? Like, just making stuff up, right? Different people can have different values. But yeah, like if you tell ChatGPT like, hey, the most important thing for me is to see economic progress in the world. And then I ask like, hey, is it good to water my garden? And I say like, hey, no, don't do it, right? Like you're telling me what is important to you. I understand that. Now, this is a simple example, but this applies to a lot of different use cases, right? And again, this is just an introductory video of, the use cases, but you can apply these to more complex cases. Like, suppose that you're grinding a function, again, I'm a software engineer, so, I have a lot of examples of software, but you can apply it to accounting and the like. Actually, let's just apply it to healthcare. And I'm going to make some stuff up, this is not health advice, obviously, but suppose that I'm a naturopath, right? That's my practice, there's general practitioners and the like, but I specialize in naturopath medicine. And maybe, instead of asking is like, hey, someone has a sore throat, like ChatGPT might tell me, hey, you should do these things, right? And blah, blah, blah. Like, if you want to get the answers that you expect, and not be biased and give you, proper, just overall, off the shelf counter medicine for a sore throat, you would have to tell ChatGPT like, hey, I'm a naturopath, like these are the things, this is my framework in which I help patients, like these are the things that I care about and the like. If you put all that context and then you ask the question, hey, what should I do? What should I recommend for a sore throat? Is like, hey, like you should get the answer that you want because you're teaching ChatGPT, you're mentoring what are the things that you care about, right? Yeah. All right, so another question that we had is, okay, what are the books that Javier Luraski has written? And one of the things that you can do is you can upload data to ChatGPT, especially if you have like the enterprise version or if you use a tool like HAL9, which is what our company does. You can upload PDFs, you can upload CSV files, you can connect to databases and the like. And again, the way of solving the problem, the factual problem, right, is like, how do you prevent ChatGPT for hallucinating? Well, you need to give it the factual information that ChatGPT should be using, right? So if you tell someone is like, hey, here is a list of books, which is the book that Javier Luraski wrote, like you're more likely to get an answer, right? In this case, we're getting one row, which is mastering Spark with R, and then, got some additional creativity, and it's also showcasing the height of the book. Maybe that's not useful, but like definitely the factual, well, it's factual, the height of the book. But the important part is that, we're getting the correct results by providing the data to ChatGPT that it requires to answer factual information. For the randomness, this one is a bit of a trickier one. So it is an area of active research on how to make technologies like ChatGPT less random. A lot of it has to do with the complexity, but I won't get into that. But one of the ways that you can reduce randomization is providing additional, again, information, right, and context as to what to expect, right? In the case of, hey, tell me if apples are better than bananas, I'm on the line, like I don't even know. Like if you ask me that question, I don't know which one is better. But like if we provide the additional information, right? Like, hey, assuming only that foods with more calories are better, like are apples better than bananas, right? Like you're more likely to get like a deterministic answer if you're presenting all the facts and all the context to ChatGPT when you're doing kind of like these types of analysis, right? And then for the question, for the problem of the calculator, right, is like we have a math problem. We need an answer. Literally, what you can do is give ChatGPT a calculator. We support that on HAL 9. It's also supported on ChatGPT Enterprise, I believe. There is something called a code interpreter that is very good at evaluating expressions or code itself. So again, if you get the Enterprise, the premium version of ChatGPT, or if you use HAL 9 for free, you have a code interpreter behind the covers that when you ask like a math problem, we actually run the code to evaluate that math expression, and it becomes better. Now, this is a simple use case, right? Like your job as a person that works in a particular field is to apply these concepts to the problems that you have in mind. So maybe, and again, I'm making a lot of stuff up because I'm not an expert on many industries, but suppose that I'm in genomics, right? And, maybe I ask the question to ChatGPT is like, what DNA sequence is better, right? Or the like, I don't know. I mean, I'm making stuff up. If you ask that question, it might not be enough to have that, but like, to get the proper answer, you might have to connect additional systems that know how to process DNA sequences, right? And if you can connect ChatGPT to that and give it that tool, then you can overcome some of the problems that ChatGPT might have in the genomics space. And again, just keeping things simple for this presentation, you can look into how to apply this on your particular problems. Now, you might look at all of these and be like, oh my God, that is a lot of work. Isn't there like a better way? Like if you were Tony Stark, trying to do this for everyone in your team and learning it, like that seems like a lot of work. And, it's like, hey, isn't there a better solution? And yeah, we can think of a better solution. If you think of Tony Stark, the way that he solves a lot of the problems, right? Iron Man, the way that he solves a lot of the problems is by automating. So rather than having to reteach ChatGPT over and over and connect systems and, have custom prompts and the like is, and we just make a tool that is better for our team, that works better, can we automate the process with ChatGPT and the like? So this brings us to the second part of this talk. I want to kind of like tell you what are the automations and, kind of like advanced use cases that we've done within our company. And what is my point of view on those advanced use cases that we've done with ChatGPT? But all of them follow some level of automation, right? Integration and the like, and they're a little bit more complex, right? Yeah. So the first automation that we did has been already probably 2 or 3 years since we built this. This was very early on with early versions of GPT-3. So this was before ChatGPT. And the problem that we had is we're at this geo-distributed team. I mentioned that we have people in different countries, and we didn't, it was a challenge to do Scrum meetings, right? Like getting everyone together at the same time and figuring out what it did, and get the summary and all that was challenging. And also it's like a lot of time, right? That you need to invest into getting everyone on the same meeting, to just give an update. So what we did instead is, we created a chatbot. We call it Ted Lasso. It has the personality of Ted Lasso, so it's overly positive. And what this integration does is it looks at all our Clockify data, which is a system to track tasks. So, for instance, right now I'm entering the task. Javier is recording a video about how to use ChatGPT for Teams, right? And the like. So I enter my tasks during the day, my coworkers do the same. And then basically what this system does, it looks at the previous tasks that were done the previous day, and it generates a summary. It also generates a graph, a chart of what are the, when the work items got done. And then it gives us the summary of that daily Scrum meeting of Javier work on X, Y, and Z, and his co-founder Pedro on all these other things and the like. And this is what the team is doing. So to me, this is one of the integrations that has saved us thousands of dollars, maybe many thousands of dollars. If you think about it, we're about 10 people in our team, like 30 minutes, like that's 30 minutes of someone's time times 10, times 20 days or whatever there are in the month. It is a lot of money that it saves just by not having to have these meetings and collect this data. Now, this is particular to us, and it's something that is very specific of our team. We use Clockify, we use a lot of Slack, and we want these types of integration with this type of personality, right? So that's what we built, and we've been using it for very long, and we're very happy with it. Another integration that we did is we added a chatbot that was an expert on our website directly into our website, right? So basically, if you want to ask a question like, hey, what is HAL9? Or I'm studying, should I be using HAL9? You can answer all those questions. From a technical point of view, it worked really well. Like, it answered the questions, simple questions and the like. From a business point of view, it didn't work that well because we don't have that many users, with a ton of like questions, right? And we like to give a personalized, like a personal touch and, closer, warm when you talk to us. Like we're a small company, we can afford to do that. I think this use case works really well for companies that have significant budget of support, where you have like a ton of, teams, support teams answering very simple questions. I think that's a better use case, not really for startups. But yeah, I mean, definitely, I'm just sharing blatantly what are the things that have worked for us, which ones less. This is one of the ones that work less for us. We also tried an integration of putting ChatGPT directly in Slack. So you can actually do this for free. You can go to hal9.com and click add to Slack, and then you get HAL9 inside the Slack. This was actually useful, but not life-changing. So basically the way it works is you can ask ChatGPT, or in this case, HAL9 is like, hey, like what are good prompt engineering techniques for databases? And the problem that this solves is especially useful when you have a thread or a conversation with multiple people, rather than someone going and asking ChatGPT and waiting and then getting the answer back. You can do it collaboratively. So you can say like, hey, what are the good prompt techniques? And then someone else can ask like, ChatGPT is like, well, I would ask this question this way, right? Or, like it feels more integrated. And, it saves some time, copy pasting time, and, like feels like communication is staying in one place. I don't think this one was life-changing. It was useful and interesting and definitely like it. But I would only recommend this one if you integrate it with more things like, like HubSpot, right? And you can ask questions of like, hey, what are my customers and the like. That would becomes really, really interesting. But just as an integration, yeah, I would basically recommend to go the extra step and provide additional services and the like connected to this integration. And then the last one on this section, which I think is one of our best use cases of ChatGPT automations, is we are a horizontal platform. So with HAL9, you can build any sort of like ChatGPT variation or automation. So that means that we can be in multiple industries, right? Like biology and energy and transportation and the like, logistics. So we wanted to create a bunch of different demos that speak to you when you come to the website. So when you click solutions, you're going to see a list of different things. And actually what we support there, or the way that we did this, is it's actually all automatically generated from ChatGPT, like and HAL9 integrations and the like. So it's not that we manually build this, but like we actually generated everything from scratch, right? So the concept, like the picture, like the demo, like the actual demo script, like what you click, what you do, and all with an industry focus. And yeah, so feel free to take a look at those, and they're all generated with generative AI, which is pretty great. And then this is just one small learning that we had in our company. I really believe that when you're working with generative AI, you should look into projects that are incremental. And basically this translates as in, it's best to get hourly consulting, as in the project is variable. The way that we like to work is, let's just get something up and running really fast with our platform. And then afterwards, like whatever improvements you need are on an hourly basis. And this is very important because some generative AI projects are very simple. Some projects are really hard. Some projects are very hard, but maybe you can get started and going with something very simple. Some projects are very simple to the business user or seem like something simple, but end up being really hard. So like it is a broader spectrum that we have in generative AI, same for AI. So like one of the best ways I think to tackle problems, whether you work with us or with someone else, is to say, hey, how can I get something in front of my business users in the least amount of time, such that we can then iterate, right, and the like. All right, so let's just close with what are the tools that we use, especially in the space of our startup, right? And I should start by saying that we've tried a lot of different tools, probably dozens, if not hundreds of different tools. Yeah, so there's a lot of them. So I don't have the time to present them all. One of them that I briefly mentioned is Claude from Anthropic, which is similar to ChatGPT. In many cases, it's better. So it's definitely one of the tools that is worth using. Like the Slack integration, we also tried it. It's like, hey, you pay $10 and you get extra for additional $10 per user. You can get the integration of AI. Both of them were not super useful, and we didn't end up using them. And I'll tell you why. So Claude is in many cases better, but it's not 2 times better than ChatGPT. It's, you can look at the research and the like, maybe it's like, 7% better, right, in solving some types of problems or the like, and 10% or the like. And that's great. But what I found out is that the context switching of, using ChatGPT to whatever is the latest model, is not the ideal workflow for everyone on the company necessarily, right? Because then you're basically telling people is like, hey, like use ChatGPT, and then you're telling them like, hey, use Claude because it's better at these types of problems. And then it's like, hey, actually go back to ChatGPT. Now they released the model, the Strawberry O1 model, like now it's better. Now you can do it as an expert. That makes sense. Like when you start to develop your understanding of what tools are good for, you can do those types of things. But I think, we've found the most value on staying on ChatGPT. And then the Slack one to me is just mostly like a pricing issue. I think it definitely has value to use ChatGPT or Anthropic Claude or Gemini directly from ChatGPT. But like the cost is, we're basically paying twice as much, from $10 to $20 per user, right? So that is a significant cost where we haven't seen the value of using Slack AI. That's just us, that's just our company. Maybe we don't have enough data and the like. I can just tell you the things that we've learned. And then the other two are tools for coding like Copilot or the Warp terminal. There's one person in our team that actually uses Warp, the Warp terminal. I personally, use a lot ChatGPT for coding, but I like to use Sublime, which is like a minimalistic code editor, and then ChatGPT as a follow-up. And really the reason is that I find out that there is better context on ChatGPT than if I just stick to coding. So for instance, the use case would be like, suppose that we need to build our website from scratch, right? And, I wouldn't ask an IDE, hey, build X or Y. I would start first brainstorming with ChatGPT, and I would say something like, hey, we're HAL 9, a company inspired on HAL 9000 to help AI be better and better integrate better into solutions. What are the colors that we should use? And I might get the answer orange and red, are on theme for HAL 9000, right? Then when I go to generate the skeleton of my web application and I say, hey, please generate a skeleton application using Vue and HTML, and CSS or SAS or whatever, and a backend in Python. When I get that, I don't have the context of the color palette that I got from ChatGPT. Obviously, I can copy paste it, but like what I've found in my workflows is that it's best for me to have everything on ChatGPT. So with that, we really only work with 3 different tools. That's really has been our bottom line. The 3 tools that we use the most, the first one is ChatGPT. I mean, I've talked a lot about how to use ChatGPT. The second one is Midjourney, which I'll show you a couple examples. So Midjourney helps you generate images and is so much better than ChatGPT that, you know, you should use Midjourney. But recently we actually switched from using Midjourney to Flux for most of our image generation. Flux is a more advanced model than Midjourney, but we actually end up building a wrapper on the model with HAL9 that anyone can use, mostly because it helps us be more productive when we're asking Flux to generate images. So I'll show you that, but in general, you know, obviously we're biased because we work at HAL9, but we do use a lot of HAL9 for integrations, like the website was generated with HAL9 and the like. And yeah, and let me show you kind of like what is the use case of Flux. So for instance, here I'm asking, hey, I want a picture of Baby Yoda using an iPhone. And, you know, Flux is definitely, from my point of view, way better than ChatGPT and Midjourney, especially for people and the like and more realistic photos. If you want to use these, you can go to hal9.com/apps/Flux, or you can go to hal9.com and then scroll down and you'll find Flux at the very bottom in the different you know, examples that we have. But yeah, I mean, it's pretty great. Here's another example, Baby Yoda at a Paris cafe, Baby Yoda running a lemonade stand, Baby Yoda climbing a wall, and Baby Yoda eating pancakes. But yeah, I mean, definitely feel free to give it a shot. HAL9 is free, or, you know, we have free plans. We also have enterprise plans and the like. And if you want to talk more about kind of like how ChatGPT can help your team or automations and the like, feel free to get a consultation with our team. You can go to hal9.com and we can either find out ways to use ChatGPT more productively, or, you know, Gemini or whatever things you're using. And then, you know, we can figure out if an actual automation is what you need. In many cases, you know, I think it's best when companies become heavy users of ChatGPT first before they start doing too many automations, but definitely happy to understand your problems and just go through it and figure out how we can be most helpful. Thanks for watching. I'll post a few more videos on generative AI and the like, so keep in touch on YouTube, LinkedIn, X or Twitter and the like, and have a great day.